Come on, there we go. These controls are really unconventional. It's really awkward, but you kind of get used to it, as weird as it is. Okay, turn it off. That's all we can afford. What's going on, you guys? Steve here, and I'm really excited because today we're going to be playing Unreal Tournament for the Sega Dreamcast. This is a game that I don't really have too much experience with because when Unreal Tournament was a really active franchise, I was a kid, and when I was growing up, my parents and most parents in general took the whole game rating thing really serious. So you didn't really have access to mature games and those super gory, violent games unless you had parents who frankly didn't care, or older siblings or friends where their parents didn't really care. This game is really special, and I think this port of the game is really special because this game was made by Epic Games. Yeah, the Fortnite Epic Games. It's an arena shooter that released in the year 2000. This game dropped on the PC, the PlayStation 2, and the Sega Dreamcast. The PlayStation 2 version of the game released before the Dreamcast version, oddly enough, but the craziest thing is the PS2 version doesn't feature online. You could only play against bots or split-screen local multiplayer. But on the Sega Dreamcast version, you could play online just like the PC version. If you played an arena shooter, then you're very familiar with this type of gameplay loop. It's very similar to GoldenEye, Halo, even Splitgate. Pretty much you just run around these really tight maps. There's a bunch of other players running around too. Everyone has bazookas and all these crazy laser weapons and all kinds of crazy guns. It's just a bunch of unhinged mayhem. So yeah, if you played any type of arena shooter, you're very familiar with this. It's kind of crazy because Unreal Tournament was sacrificed in order to make Fortnite. It's a trip because that's a very kid-friendly game, the complete opposite of Unreal Tournament. I can talk about this game all day because it's honestly the grandfather of most arena shooters. Most of these modern shooters we see today. I don't believe we would have games like Marvel Rivals or Valorant if it wasn't for games like this and Counter-Strike, which dropped around the same time, I believe a few months before this game came out. I'm going to be playing this game using my Dreamcast controller, but you can play using the keyboard and mouse that comes with the Sega Dreamcast. I recommend playing the game that way just because it only has one analog stick, so most shooters, they play like trash because you can't free look and kind of turn and maneuver how you want to with standard controllers. Honestly, that was the biggest downside in my opinion for the Sega Dreamcast. A lot of people preferred the Xbox and the PS2 because of the games they had on those consoles, but I would say what I dislike most, they basically designed this for arcade games. The console mostly had arcade games, so it made sense. It's just really unfortunate they didn't future-proof the actual controller. Maybe if it lasted longer, they would have updated just like the PS1 did, where they created the original DualShock. Games like this are really tough to play on this controller because it only has the one analog stick, so you got to use the face buttons, you got to use the D-pad, even the triggers on the back. It's just very unconventional when it comes to control schemes for certain games on the Sega Dreamcast. I will say it's kind of crazy. It seems like Microsoft and Xbox are drawing a lot of parallels with Sega and the Dreamcast. This console is basically a PC console hybrid, and it seems like that's what Xbox is trying to do with their recently announced Project Helix, their next-gen console. And that's basically what these guys were doing when they had a web browser and a mouse and key option. We can just play against bots. I don't really want to add a name and do all this extra stuff. So yeah, you basically pick one of these characters. It's not the prettiest looking game. Honestly, when this game dropped, I remember the visuals looked pretty crazy to me with my kid brain. Let's use this guy. I don't know. I don't really care. And offline, you can only play deathmatch against bots. We can play to 15 kills. And I believe it's just 1v1. But you can get a good amount of players. I think it's 8 players, free-for-all in certain modes. Something like that. So yeah, the controls are really unconventional. You basically, you move left to right with the analog stick. You shoot with the right trigger. Let's see. Yeah, and you move front and back with the analog stick as well. So it's kind of quirky. Like all of your movement is on the analog stick. Literally all of it is just on this one. You can jump with your left trigger. And you basically just run around the map like this and just try to take out the other players. It's a very straightforward gameplay loop. It's a really fun game, but I imagine it's just more fun, it's more compelling when you have real players along with you. What's cool is the Dreamcast scene is keeping these online games alive. So there's still some pretty unconventional ways to play this game online with real people in 2026 or whenever people are finding this video. There's certain attachments and things where you can play this game against real life human beings on original hardware. Bop, bop, bop. Come on, there we go. Yeah, these controls are really unconventional. It's really awkward, but you kind of get used to it, as weird as it is. But something that's really cool about the scene is there's certain forums like Dreamcast Talk, where if you're tapped in, you can find these online meetups for some of these games. And you can find lobbies. There's guys that are playing NBA 2K on the Sega Dreamcast in 2026, which is pretty cool. They're playing online against real people. Even games like Phantasy Star, you can find lobbies and talk to real people. Play the game how it was 25 plus years ago. So it's cool that there's still people who care about this console and they're doing what they can. Even recently, at the time of recording, they just dropped an English translation of Sega Gaga, which was one of the last big games for the Sega Dreamcast. It was a Japanese exclusive that wasn't in English, but people in the scene actually translated the game into English, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of little projects like that for the Sega Dreamcast where people are basically keeping it alive and making it modern. They're giving people access to games and certain features that were basically lost to time. I consider this game the godfather to most arena shooters. Did I kill that guy? Nope. I'm like, what kind of weapon do I have? But yeah, I consider this the godfather because, I mean, if you play most arena shooters, if you play most modern games, they're going to be very reminiscent of this. They took basically this premise and dialed it in. Splitgate Arena Reloaded, for example, that's my favorite modern console game right now. And it's pretty much this game, just touched up. You have jetpacks and different weapons, different characters, but the premise is the same. It plays just like this. It's like a hybrid of this and Halo. Not as violent, but basically the same game. Same exact gameplay loop, just different visuals. Yeah, the game has a chat where you can talk to other people. It was just really unhinged chaos. I remember playing this game with one of my older cousins. He was really into Unreal Tournament when this dropped. I remember he came over for the holidays one time, and he was all about this game. I think he was playing Unreal Tournament 2003 or 2004 or something. It was one of those. They used to make these games annually, just like the King of Fighters games. And that's the end. But yeah, at some point they kind of stopped making them. They slowed down. They made an update in the 2010s. They rebooted the franchise, but then they just completely canceled it. They just shut it down to make Fortnite. But yeah, this is Unreal Tournament. It's a really cool, super innovative arena shooter. It basically birthed most of these games we have today, honestly. This and Counter-Strike were the OGs. I mean, yeah, you can maybe say Doom and stuff like that, but as far as the multiplayer online stuff, this is it. I can't say it enough. I just really appreciate the Sega Dreamcast. I love how experimental they were. There were just so many different types of games, so many different types of experiences. They really pushed the envelope. I just think it's kind of sad you don't see this out of the AAA companies anymore. They have the very iconic U logo that's kind of ping-ponging around in the background from the Unreal Engine logo. That's where this comes from. So yeah, it's just very innovative. There's so much history and stuff that I feel like people aren't really hip to. The Sega Dreamcast, honestly, it just started a bunch of stuff in gaming. Yeah, very cool. Very sad, but very cool.